They say that the most beautiful treasures aren't bought, they're found. And sometimes, all it takes is a second look at the things we once forgot. In our rush to replace what's worn, we sometimes miss the quiet dignity of things that have weathered time alongside us. There's a particular kind of beauty that can't be manufactured, the kind that comes only from genuine age, authentic wear, and the gentle passage of seasons. What if the things we've tucked away, deemed too worn for their original purpose, are simply waiting for their second act? Not as lesser versions of what they were, but as something entirely new, equally valuable, equally cherished. Welcome home to Golden Seniors Living, where we believe beauty grows in slow moments, seasoned hands, and heartfelt spaces. This is a place where we honor the wisdom that comes from living fully, where the lines on our faces and the weathering on our treasures aren't flaws to be hidden but stories to be celebrated. Here, we create with care, not rush. We understand that true beauty emerges when we give ourselves permission to work at the pace of nature, not the pace of urgency. Every idea you'll see today is an invitation to rediscover the treasures already in your hands. To look with fresh eyes at what's been sitting in attics, garages, and forgotten corners. Because sometimes the most meaningful garden isn't created by what you buy, but by what you recognize anew. In today's video, you'll uncover 15 simple, soulful upcycled garden ideas, treasures you can create using things you already own. Whether your outdoor space is a sprawling yard or a modest apartment balcony, these ideas adapt to what you have, honoring both your budget and the character of what's already in your possession. No hurry. No pressure. Just little sparks of inspiration for your patio, your porch, your tiny haven. Because the most beautiful gardens grow at the speed of contentment, not comparison. Every time you watch, every smile you share, it waters a garden far bigger than just this little channel. It keeps a dream alive, a dream of crafting slow, soulful beauty together. Of rediscovering the art of patience in a world that rarely slows down enough to notice the poetry in withered things. Your time here matters, each moment you spend, each idea you carry away, each gentle click of support. They come together like raindrops nurturing something meaningful. Thank you, from my heart to yours, for believing that beauty worth creating is beauty worth waiting for. Sometimes, the attic or the garage holds more magic than we realize. Beyond the dust, beyond the cobwebs, sit patient witnesses to our past, objects that have quietly waited for us to remember their worth. There's something profound about reclaiming what we already own, about recognizing that acquisition isn't always the answer when creation waits just beyond recognition. Idea 1, old wooden ladder equals vertical herb garden. This ladder climbed to countless ceilings, held steadfast for reaching hands, and now, in its golden years, it cradles new life in a different kind of ascension. See how time has shaped this wood, how each withered mark tells of service rendered, heights reached, tasks completed. No new garden structure could speak with such eloquence. Let the ladder lean, a little crookedness tells its story. The slight angle creates natural depth, bringing some herbs forward while others recede, just as memories do. Consider grouping herbs by their needs, sun lovers climbing higher while shade-appreciative mint and parsley rest near the ground. Small terracotta saucers protect the wood while honoring its texture. You might secure particularly precious pots with a gentle loop of natural twine, not hidden away, but incorporated as another textural element in this vertical story. There's wisdom in how this ladder now serves, not by elevating us to new heights, but by lifting these humble herbs toward the sun. Perhaps that's the truest purpose of experience, to provide support for new growth. And isn't there poetry in how an object once used for urgent tasks, fixing, reaching, repairing, now serves in unhurried beauty and daily nourishment? Perhaps there's a lesson there for all of us. Idea 2, rusted wheelbarrow equals rolling flower bed. Notice how the rust blooms in its own botanical patterns. No artist could design this authentic patina that only decades of honest use can create. You might drill a few additional drainage holes along the bottom, not too many, as a wheelbarrow naturally holds moisture in its center, creating perfect conditions for plants that appreciate consistent dampness. Consider positioning your wheelbarrow where it appears to have just paused in its journey, perhaps near a garden path or angled slightly as if it's been momentarily set down. This creates a story in the garden, a sense of work momentarily suspended. Line the barrow with landscape fabric before adding soil, creating a barrier that protects while allowing the character of any existing holes or rust to remain visible at the edges. Even when we've carried too much, we can still hold beauty. This wheelbarrow reminds us that our capacity to nurture doesn't diminish with age, it simply transforms. There's gentle triumph in this transformation, a humble work tool now elevated to a work of art, yet still maintaining its honest character, its worker's soul. What carried burden now carries bloom, what new labor now knows rest. Idea 3, broken chairs equals pot stands. These chairs once offered rest at countless tables, silent witnesses to family meals, celebrations, quiet morning coffees. Their broken parts don't speak of ending but of evolution. See how the craftsmanship remains evident even as function has changed. These weren't assembled, they were built, with joineries and techniques that have largely disappeared from our mass-produced world. You don't fix everything to make it useful, sometimes it's the break that blesses. A missing seat creates the perfect frame for a large pot, while a weakened back offers support for climbing vines. Consider grouping chairs of different heights and styles but similar tones, creating a family of forms that speak to each other across the garden space. For chairs that still have intact seats, you might place shallow containers rather than heavy pots, respecting the chair's remaining strength while still inviting it into new purpose. These chairs remind us that wholeness isn't always what we imagine it to be. Sometimes it's in the graceful acceptance of change and the willingness to offer what remains rather than grieving what's lost. There's a tender conversation happening here between the crafted and the growing, the chair offering structure, the plant offering renewal. Neither complete without the other, both transformed by the partnership. The kitchen remembers every meal, every laugh. Why not let it remember in the garden, too? These vessels that nourished us indoors find new purpose under open skies, still participating in the nurturing that has always been their essence. There's a particular charm in bringing indoor objects outside, breaking the boundaries between our constructed spaces and allowing them to converse with nature directly. The kitchen, especially, understands growth, nourishment, and the slow unfolding of good things. Idea 4, vintage teapots equals hanging planters. These vessels once poured comfort, conversation, moments of stillness in busy days. Now they pour greenery and color, their spouts directing cascades of tiny blossoms instead of steaming amber liquid. Notice how the patterns on this porcelain have softened with countless washings, countless pourings, the gold rim now a whisper rather than a shout. The flowers painted by hand decades ago now harmonizing with the living blooms they cradle. You might suspend your teapots with natural fibers, jute, cotton rope, even unraveled burlap rewoven into simple macrame supports. The organic texture of these materials honors the age and character of the teapots better than modern nylon or wire. Choose trailing plants that echo the pouring nature of these vessels, allowing flowers to spill from spouts and cascade over rims in liquid color. Tiny violas, creeping thyme, fairy ferns all adapt beautifully to the shallow confines. Consider leaving the lid slightly ajar, a small detail that creates both practical drainage and visual interest, suggesting the teapot is actively participating in this new role rather than simply containing it. Poured tea, poured memories, poured life. These teapots remind us that containers don't define what they hold, the holding itself is the gift, regardless of content. There's something deeply satisfying in how these vessels, designed for the temporary comfort of a hot drink, now participate in something living and lasting. From ephemeral service to enduring beauty, a transformation we might all aspire to. Idea 5, old colanders equals hanging strawberry baskets. These humble kitchen workhorses once separated water from food, now they separate earth from air, creating perfect suspended gardens where roots find anchorage while leaves and fruits reach freedom. See how the strawberry plants understand this partnership instinctively, sending their runners through the ready-made openings, creating a living curtain of green and, in season, jewel-like fruits suspended in air. Let the holes do what they were made to do: cradle, breathe, and spill life. No need for additional drainage, no need to create what's already perfectly designed. Consider suspending your colanders at varying heights along a fence or beam, creating a visual rhythm of form and emptiness, container and space. 3 is a naturally pleasing number, but even 1 makes a striking focal point. Line the colander with a layer of moss before adding soil. It helps retain moisture while allowing the perfect amount of drainage through the original perforations. The green of the moss visible through the holes adds another layer of texture to the composition. There's profound wisdom in how these colanders still perform their essential function, separating elements, creating boundaries, establishing order, yet in service of growth rather than division. What once participated in daily sustenance continues to do so, just in a longer, slower rhythm. From the immediacy of meal preparation to the patient unfurling of fruit, a beautiful continuum of nourishment. Idea 6. Cookie tins equals mini succulent gardens. These tins once protected special treats, often reserved for holidays or unexpected guests. Now they cradle living jewels, succulent treasures that require little more than sun and patience. Notice how time has softened these once bright images, how sunlight has gradually shifted colors, how countless openings and closings have worn paths in the metal, creating a patina no artist could precisely duplicate. You might arrange your collection with deliberate mismatching. It's not about uniformity, but conversation. Let holiday tins mingle with vintage brands, allowing their colors and histories to create unexpected harmonies. Consider echoing the colors or themes of each tin in your plant selection: blue-toned succulents in tins with cool colors, warm-hued sedums in tins with red or orange graphics. These subtle connections create an intuitive sense of rightness, even if viewers can't immediately identify why. Drill several small drainage holes in the bottom of each tin, preserving the character of the sides and top while ensuring your plants thrive. It's not about matching, it's about belonging. These diverse containers remind us that cohesion doesn't require sameness, that harmony emerges from authentic diversity, not enforced uniformity. There's a beautiful metaphor here about community, each tin maintaining its individual character and history while participating in a shared purpose, a collective beauty. Separate stories becoming a single story without losing their unique voices. The seasons leave behind fragments, but every fragment can become a beginning again. These remnants of past gardens don't speak of endings, but of cycles, of the perpetual invitation to begin again that nature extends with every turning year. What appears broken to one perspective might simply be transforming to another. The crack, the split, the weathering, these aren't flaws but doorways through which new purpose can enter. Idea 7. Broken bird bath equals fairy garden. This bird bath once offered refreshment to feathered visitors until frost or accident created this elegant crack. Now it cradles an entire world, one that invites imagination rather than wings. See how the fracture line has become a river in this miniature landscape, how the broken edge offers a perfect path for cascading greenery. What seemed to end one purpose actually invited another, more expansive one. You might begin with a layer of gravel in the basin for drainage, then add soil sculpted into gentle contours that create visual interest and natural planting zones. Consider scale when selecting plants. Creeping thyme becomes a mighty forest in this diminutive world, while a small section of sheet moss transforms into rolling meadows. The sense of proportion creates the magic. Incorporate tiny treasures you've collected through the years, a special stone from a memorable beach, a miniature ceramic animal from a grandchild, a tiny windmill that once adorned a cake. These personal elements infuse your miniature world with meaning beyond mere decoration. Even when cracked, we can cradle wonder. This bird bath reminds us that our capacity to nurture beauty doesn't end with injury. Sometimes the break itself becomes the beginning of something more intricate, more imaginative than what came before. There's profound wisdom in how this once broken object now invites lingering, storytelling, imagining, activities that nourish our inner landscapes as surely as gardens feed our senses. What was a simple bird bath has become a doorway to wonder. Idea 8. Old garden hose equals coiled planter. This hose once carried life-giving water throughout the garden, connecting source to thirst across countless growing seasons. Its flexibility has stiffened with time, its material withered, yet in this new form, it still participates in the nurturing it has always known. Notice how the sun has painted this rubber with uneven attention, creating variations in tone that no manufactured planter could duplicate. The places where the hose was most often flexed show particular character, like laugh lines on a beloved face. Let tired things twist into something new. You might coil your hose around a central pot for stability, securing the layers with natural garden twine that will weather alongside the rubber. Consider plants that echo the circular nature of your container, those with rounded leaves or radial growing patterns. Succulents like echeveria create living mandalas that continue the spiral theme, while trailing varieties soften the edges of your coiled creation. If your hose has developed leaks, don't despair. These actually create perfect natural drainage for your planter, combining function with the authentic character of age. There's quiet poetry in how this hose has come full circle, once delivering water to plants, now cradling them directly. From conduit to container, its essential purpose of nurturing continues unbroken. Perhaps there's wisdom here about adaptation, about how flexibility, even when diminished with time, can still be our greatest strength. Not in the ways we originally imagined, but in new forms that honor our essential nature. Idea 9. Single rain boots equals plant pockets. These boots once splashed through puddles, protected against earthly dampness, carried their wearers through countless rainy days. Now they stand planted, offering colorful pockets of life throughout the garden. See how each boot wears its history differently. This children's boot shows scuffs at the toe where small feet kick through autumn leaves, while this larger one bears the particular creasing that comes only from years of walking, of bearing weight, of journeying. You might add a few drainage holes in the soles, just enough to prevent waterlogging while allowing the boots to retain some of their natural moisture-holding capacity. Consider arranging your boot planters in ways that suggest movement, as if they've been momentarily removed and left behind by invisible gardeners. A pair separated by several steps creates a narrative in your garden space, a sense of paused journey. For taller boots, layer the bottom with gravel before adding soil, creating a reservoir that benefits moisture-loving plants while preventing root rot. Walk miles, and now they root stillness. These boots remind us that movement and rest aren't opposites but companions, that journeying and staying both have their seasons. There's tender irony in how these vessels, designed to keep nature out, now invited in, creating habitats rather than barriers, welcoming the very elements they once repelled. Perhaps there's a lesson there about the false separations we sometimes create between ourselves and the natural world. Wood remembers every tree it came from, every hand that shaped it, every season it braved. Even in fragments, it carries this living memory, a narrative of growth, purpose, and patient transformation that makes it the perfect partner in garden creation. There's a particular warmth that comes only from wood that has aged naturally, not distressed by technique but textured by genuine experience. These pieces have earned their character through relationship with sun, rain, frost, and human touch. Idea 10. Palletwood equals rustic wall garden. These humble boards once cradled merchandise, traveled across distances, supported weight beyond their seeming strength. Now they create a vertical landscape that brings nature to eye level, inviting closer relationship with growing things. Look at the story written in this grain, here where water once pooled, darkening the wood in this distinctive pattern. Here where sun bleached it silver gray. Here where someone thoughtlessly set down a hot object, leaving this burnished mark that now creates a perfect backdrop for trailing greenery. Don't strip away the weathering, it's where the poetry lives. Allow the authentic character of use and age to remain visible, to participate in the new beauty being created. You might attach small containers using natural jute rope for a softer connection, or discrete screws where more security is needed. The contrast between hardwood and soft rope creates a visual conversation that adds depth to your vertical garden. Consider the natural weight of your wall garden when fully watered. Positioning heavier plants lower and lighter ones above creates both visual balance and practical stability. These boards remind us that usefulness doesn't end with a single purpose, that strength developed in one role serves equally well in another. What once supported commerce now supports life, a beautiful evolution of purpose. There's profound beauty in this transformation, not just of wood to garden, but of something purely functional to something that invites contemplation, that merges utility with artistry in quiet harmony. Idea 11. Drawer fronts equals garden signage. These drawer fronts once organized domestic life, keeping small necessities in their proper places. Now they orient guests through your garden, offering gentle guidance while showcasing the beauty of aged wood and handcraft. Notice the dovetail joints visible at the edges of this piece, handcrafted connections from an era when furniture was built to last generations. The slight separation developing at one corner speaks not of failure but of decades of faithful service. You might choose drawer fronts whose wood tones harmonize with your garden's existing structures, creating a cohesive visual language across your outdoor space. Consider the natural height of what each sign identifies. Herb markers can rest directly among the plants they name, while welcome signs might find homes at eye level near garden entrances. Let your hand painting be imperfect, slight wobbles in lettering, uneven edges. These human touches echo the natural imperfections of the wood itself, creating harmony between medium and message. Emotional reflection, words rooted in wood, blooming in the breeze. These simple signs remind us that guidance can be an act of beauty, that orientation can be offered with artistry rather than mere utility. There's something deeply satisfying in this reclamation, furniture that once served inside our homes now participating in our outdoor lives. The boundaries between our constructed spaces soften, allowing for conversation between what we build and what naturally grows. Metal may rust, but spirit never fades. These durable materials, shaped by human hands for specific purposes, find new expression in the garden, their industrial origins softened by their partnership with growing things. Idea 12. Wire baskets equals hanging moss gardens. These baskets once gathered, contained, organized. Their open weave, designed for visibility of contents or air circulation, now creates the perfect framework for plants that thrive in the in-between spaces, that appreciate the dialogue between structure and freedom. See how each basket's pattern creates a unique relationship with what grows within and around it. This honeycomb structure cradles moss in perfect hexagonal pockets, while this more open weave allows air plants to reach through the gaps, creating living sculptures that change daily. Let the spaces between hold as much as the frame itself. The openness of these structures invites collaboration with plants rather than mere containment. You might line your baskets with sheet moss before adding small amounts of soil in strategic pockets, creating anchoring points for roots while maintaining the visual lightness that makes these hanging gardens so captivating. Consider the play of shadow these will cast throughout the day, positioning them where dappled patterns will fall across seating areas or paths, adding another dimension to their presence in your garden. There's wisdom in how these baskets embrace emptiness as essential to their nature, understanding that what isn't there matters as much as what is. Perhaps there's a life lesson in that balance between structure and space, between holding and releasing. When baskets designed to contain begin instead to release, allowing growth to extend beyond their boundaries, they demonstrate a generosity of purpose that transcends their original design. Limitation transformed into invitation, boundary into opportunity. Idea 13. Bicycle wheels equals vertical flower racks. These wheels once carried forward movement, translated human energy into journey. Now they've come to rest as garden features, still perfectly round, still structurally brilliant, but serving stationary beauty rather than motion. Notice how the engineering principles that made these wheels strong enough to carry weight along roads makes them equally perfect as garden structures. The tension of these spokes, each pulling precisely against the others, creates both strength and visual rhythm that no purpose-built garden feature could duplicate. You might mount your wheels at varying heights on a fence or wall, creating a constellation of circular gardens that draws the eye upward through your space. Consider attaching small containers at intervals that respect the wheel's innate geometry, perhaps at spoke intersections or along the rim at regular intervals. The structural integrity of the wheel itself doesn't require your additions to be precisely balanced, allowing for creative asymmetry in your plantings. Weatherproof twine or garden wire works beautifully to secure containers, becoming nearly invisible from a distance while allowing adjustments as plants grow and change. Wheels turn, life turns, gardens turn too. These circular structures remind us of the cycles that govern both our created and natural worlds, seasons, years, the returning spiral of growth and rest that defines all living things. There's profound satisfaction in how these wheels have found stillness after thousands of miles of motion, not as surrender, but as transformation. From journeying to arrival, from transit to presence, they invite us to recognize the beauty in both movement and rest. Beauty doesn't ask permission. It just appears wherever it can. Sometimes in the most unexpected vessels, the most overlooked corners, the most ordinary objects of daily life. There's a particular delight in recognizing the extraordinary potential in what we've previously defined as ordinary. When we transform the commonplace, we train our eyes to see possibility everywhere, perhaps the most valuable garden skill of all. Idea 14, old picture frames equals wall trellises. These frames once defined and dignified moments frozen in time, family portraits, landscape paintings, cherished images. Now they capture something more ephemeral, the constant transformation of living plants, the ever-changing composition of growth and bloom. See how the craftsmanship of these older frames brings an architectural elegance to the garden wall. This carved detail, once gilded but now showing bare wood beneath, creates a perfect counterpoint to the untamed nature of what grows within its borders. Framing growth, not controlling it. You might position your frames to capture specific garden views, a particularly beautiful climbing rose, a view to a garden feature beyond, creating intentional visual moments in your landscape. Consider plants that will respect the frame's definition without overwhelming it completely, those with delicate leaves or blooms that appear to have been composed within the borders rather than merely contained by them. Secure your frames well, respecting their age and fragility. Discrete brackets that attach to sturdy parts of the frame allow these treasures to participate without being damaged by their new outdoor context. There's profound wisdom in how these frames no longer contain static images but instead highlight living processes. They remind us that the most beautiful pictures aren't permanently fixed but constantly evolving, requiring our continued attention, our willingness to witness change. Perhaps there's a lesson here about the frames we place around our own experiences, how they can either limit or liberate, imprison or illuminate. These garden frames choose to celebrate growth rather than constrain it, to highlight beauty while allowing it complete freedom. Idea 15, chipped clay bowls equals bird watering stations, 2 minutes. These vessels once graced dining tables, held special holiday dishes, participated in family meals. Now they offer a different kind of hospitality, creating oases for garden visitors whose presence brings additional life and movement to your outdoor sanctuary. Notice how time has softened these imperfections, how the elements have continued the conversation with these ceramics that began in kilns decades ago. This bowl's glaze has responded to years of sunlight with a subtle shift from blue to periwinkle, while this terracotta piece has developed deeper patination where water has repeatedly evaporated from its porous surface. Small kindnesses for small creatures. You might position your bowl watering stations near perching spots, a low branch, a garden wall, creating safe approaches for cautious visitors. Consider the depth carefully. Birds prefer shallow water, just enough to bathe breast feathers without risk. A gently sloping bowl allows creatures of different sizes to find their perfect depth, while a flat stone rising slightly above the water provides a landing spot for butterflies and bees. Refresh the water regularly, not just for cleanliness, but as a ritual of care that connects you to the rhythms of your garden and its many inhabitants. These simple offerings remind us that a garden doesn't truly come alive until it welcomes visitors, that our cultivation is incomplete without consideration for the wider community of beings with whom we share our outdoor spaces. There's something profoundly moving in how these bowls, once used for human nourishment, now nourish wildlife in our midst. The circle of care widens, extends beyond our own species, creates connections woven through the simplest of gestures, clean water offered without expectation. Every idea we've explored together today is simply a seed. Camera pans across several of the featured upcycled garden elements, showing how they've found their places in the overall garden composition. Take what speaks to you. Shape it with your own hands, your own seasons, your own soul. The most meaningful garden isn't an exact replica of someone else's creation, but a conversation between your unique spirit and the materials that have journeyed with you. Perhaps you don't have an old ladder, but a wooden ironing board tucked away in the attic. Maybe not a teapot collection, but cherished coffee mugs with broken handles. The essence isn't in the specific object, but in the act of seeing with new eyes, of recognizing untapped potential. And remember, gardens, like people, unfold in their own time. There's no rush to transform everything at once. Sometimes the waiting, the considering, the gradual discovery is as nurturing as the creating itself. What we make with our hands, we mend in our hearts. And the treasures we uncover, from forgotten ladders to worn-out boots, aren't just things. They're pieces of our own patience, our memory, our hope. There's a particular satisfaction in creating beauty from what's already traveled with us, a depth that newly purchased items, however lovely, simply cannot match. The weathering, the wear, the imperfection, these aren't flaws to overcome but character to celebrate. Perhaps the greatest garden wisdom lies not in acquiring more, but in seeing more in what we already steward. And recognizing that time doesn't diminish value, it deepens it. That use doesn't degrade beauty, it transforms it. As we tend these humble treasures, we tend something within ourselves as well, the capacity to recognize worth beyond surface, to value journey over newness, to find abundance where others might see scarcity. If one of these treasures touched your heart today, I would love to hear your story. Tell us, which forgotten thing will you breathe new life into? What overlooked treasure is waiting in your basement, your attic, your shed, ready for its second chapter of beauty? Your stories inspire this community as much as these ideas might inspire your garden. The wisdom you've gathered, the creativity you've nurtured, these are treasures worth sharing. And if you'd like to join our slow-growing, soul-deep family here at Golden Seniors Living, subscribe and stay a while. We're gathering not just gardeners, but meaning makers, those who understand that beauty worth creating is beauty worth waiting for. Until our next garden journey together, may you discover the extraordinary hiding within the ordinary, patiently waiting for your recognition.